episode of the Who Dat Jedi podcast. This is episode 223 for your record books. Did you miss us? Did you have a happy Mardi Gras? My name's Aaron. With me, as always, the other two members of the Who Dat Jedi Council, Dave and Fredo. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Ouch.
Yeah, we actually it was a rare occasion on Lundy Gras because here we talked about it. We hang out every week on a podcast like this, and we live not far away from each other, and it is very seldom when all three of us are in the same location at the same time. And for Lundy Gras, for the Orpheus, and what's the other one? Proteus. Yeah, for those parades, we were in the same place, on the same street corner,
At the same time.
drinking beer and eating food and watching parades go by. So,
And did you notice that we apparently are in the background of some of the most shared moments of that Lundy Gras parade?
I'm sure.
Safely off camera.
Yeah. Our friend Scott Colsby sent me a TikTok video of a certain vehicle that was getting certain things thrown its way. And apparently it's like, hey, I know the people in the back behind on the other side of it. And it was us, yeah.
We weren't throwing anything, were we?
Well, no, we were not. We were
right.
not.
Right.
To any and all legal minds paying attention, we were not doing anything
Those
untoward.
are the things, well, that was one of the big stories out of Mardi Gras was that the cyber trucks showed up in a parade and just got pelted with beads and,
did you
and
hear about it?
Mercilessly.
So one of the parade marshals, because it was the parade marshals who were in the Cybertrucks, and he posted about it on Reddit and said that it every year they get cars for the marshals to ride in. They don't choose it. It's like, but somebody, I don't know who it was, decided to have this Cybertruck club from Mississippi provide the trucks. And I know if it was me, I would have been going, is this a good idea? It's kind of like when I was in college and we were at the NCAA tournament, and I was in the band, and we're in the bar after the game, and one of the boosters was talking to our director and said, hey, I want to open up a tab for the band. And the director said, are you sure about that? It's like, yeah, open tab, whatever they want. Like, are you sure about that? Yeah, whatever they want. Okay. And then, so it's like, who said, hey, let's have 5 Cybertrucks go down St. Charles in New Orleans during Mardi Gras? That's a good idea. Somebody had to have said, really?
No. On Lundy Gras, after 5 days of people being out and about drinking and partying.
Well, and the second parade after people had been drinking. And so, that for better or for worse, I'm trying to be as sanitary as possible here, but that vehicle has become a symbol, has become a negative symbol to a lot of people, especially in this community. And whether if somebody just thinks it's a really cool car, it's kind of like, well, the funny one was the last one actually looked like it should have been the General Lee, put the 01 on the side and the stars and bars on top, and you would have had it, but because it was the same color. But it's that thing. It's like it's a cool car, but dude, it's got some baggage that comes with it.
It's become synonymous with Elon Musk, who has become synonymous with tearing down positive, beneficial government programming, and this shows you like a clear divide in people's spheres, information spheres and social spheres, and how like they perceive the world. And you talk to a lot of people on the right and they would say, I love what he's doing, smaller government waste is bad, you go get him. And you talk to people on the left and they're like, he doesn't know what he's doing, he was not elected, he's not qualified to do this. And I can see actual harm being done in real time. Sometimes to people close to me, people losing their jobs, etc. And I think like talk about like, oh man, like people have blinders on to even like get into that position where they put that vehicle out on the route. But like, yeah, they do have blinders on because they are all in on Elon Musk and his mission, and they're not seeing pushback from people who lost their jobs because they're in they're in their bubble. So
yeah,
they got knocked out of their bubble.
When the last one bailed off the parade route right next to us, the cheers, that was kind of a fun hooray, we won this one moment. But
well, that was what's interesting. None of them finished the parade. Every one of those Cybertrucks had to at some point get off the route because they were getting pelted by beads. I mean, the first one that passed by, I think people booted mostly. Second one got a few beads. By that third one, people were invested in, letting them have their throws that they didn't want back. And so it got really bad. And I mean, I still remember there was a lady who came up with a fistful of beads and just smashed it on the windshield of one. The NOPD had to come and surround it before they do. So, none of these finished this parade. So it just makes me go, you know, I understand the idea, but also like be cognizant of the moment. For particularly when it's crew of Orpheus, if this had been, one of the crews that's maybe different alignment, you know, I would have thought nothing of it. But I'm surprised that they, given their inclusivity and openness, were the ones like, yeah, let's get the most divisive vehicle in America on our route in between our pretty floats.
But hey, yeah. So besides that, I was actually I was shocked that there was one of them. Then when it turned out to be 5, I was like, you got to be kidding me. But anyway, we don't have to belabor this. I
mean, it's New Orleans. We're doing New Orleans-based podcast. We're gonna talk about some of this stuff.
But I mean, it's Read the Room. It's the Blues Brothers going into Bob's Country Bunker and playing, Give Me Some Lovin'. The crowd was like, what in the heck is this? And they're throwing beer bottles and everything. So they had to quickly shift to Rawhide and Stand By Your Man. It's like I said.
I mean, I think they knew there was a gulf, but I'm not sure they knew it was that large.
Yeah.
And that would be the one thing I would say. It's just because when you're in your bubble and everyone's like, rah, rah, rah. I don't think that they knew just how angry people on the left are about what's been happening over the last few weeks.
Well, people in general, but also in their slight defense, I would say a lot of these people put in orders back in 2020, 2021, when the dynamic and the landscape was completely different. So some part of me understands like there's a level of okay, you thought you were getting on the ground floor. Back then, Tesla was considered a progressive company, considered a company that you should be supporting because they're trying to move towards a green um, uh, dynamic for energy. Unfortunately for them, the guy who owns the company has become a lightning rod, and because he's not around everywhere, the vehicle has become that instead. So,
well, with all due respect, we've spoken about Elon Musk more than I really care to speak about Elon Musk in a given week. So I think it's time to start talking about some Star Wars stuff. Tonight, a lot of things have happened while we were gone for Carnival. We got some news about a shakeup at Lucasfilm. Kind of, maybe. It's weird. It's complicated, is what we'll say. And we got an Andor Season 2 trailer with controversial rock and roll music that it's probably making Dave hide in a closet with a flashlight, after, he was worried about the Thunderbolts trailer music. But
you might be surprised.
But then we'll I have a get off my lawn moment for that one when we talk about it. And like I said, some other things have been going on. So we're throw out some. We'll do some trivia. We'll throw out some news, and then we'll talk about those last two bits: the Andor stuff and the Kathy Kennedy stuff, kind of a little bit more in depth. So, with that, let us do some trivia, shall we? Turn to your hymnals and all right, Fredo, to you. What is Yoda's last name?
What?
There is an answer. That's not on the cards, though. I'm just being ornery right now. But you should have seen if this was a video podcast. Fredo's face was perfect. What is Yoda's last name?
Leahy-Hoo?
Yes, it is. It's Leahy-Hoo. So anyway, no, we'll give you your real question here. What'd you say, Dave?
You should get a point for that, right?
Oh, I think I shared that meme with both of you earlier. But okay. Speaking of Yoda, Fredo, who does Yoda claim to have watched for a long time? Who does Yoda claim to have watched for a long time?
I don't know if this makes him a peeping Tom, but Luke.
It is Luke Skywalker.
This one I've watched for a long time, and now I'm on the registry.
And again, the certain point of view Empire Strikes Back version, it's so cool that he wanted to train Leia. He was arguing with Obi-Wan about it. It's kind of cool. I like that story. All right, Dave, to you. Who tells Han in A New Hope, "You're the best"? Who tells Han in A New Hope, "You're the best"?
I'm drawing a complete blank on this.
It took me a second. I was like,
Is it Jabba the Hutt in the special editions?
oh, that's a good... It is Jabba the Hutt. That's not who I was going to guess. It was Jabba the Hutt in the special edition. Yes.
Mabuki.
You're right. I was going to say Leia at the end when, she came, when they both landed after they blew up the Death Star. I know she says there's more. I knew there was more to you than money, but I thought maybe you're the best. Right. But yeah, it's Jabba the Hutt. All right, cool. Good job.
Got through that one barely.
And to me, what is I was just giving the answer there. What is Luke Skywalker's call sign during the Battle of Hoth? What is Luke Skywalker's call sign during the Battle of Hoth? And that is Rogue Leader. Yes, it is Rogue Leader. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. All right. Well, Fredo, I'm gonna jump in real quick with one because you didn't put it on the rundown. I sent it to you guys. Just wanted to see what you think. That earlier this week, the unaltered version, the original version of A New Hope, was on Roku for a few days. So the non-special edition, you could have watched. It was no subtitle, no CG characters in Mos Eisley. Han shoots first, all the things that you want. It was on Roku app Cinema Box, and it's no longer there. I'm guessing that Lucasfilm probably caught wind and was like, "Hey, take that stuff down." But that's kind of interesting, and I wonder. Was it an accident or somebody going, "Hey, let's just do this and see how long we can get away with it"? We don't have to talk about it long, but I just thought it was kind of funny that the original. But you can come over to my house. I've got the VHS tapes. So
I would almost be willing to bet money that they did not have, again, this was like some fly-by-night thing where they didn't have permission to air any version of Star Wars, and that's why they got their hand slapped, because I don't feel like the current version of Lucasfilm as it exists today is as maybe anal retentive as George was about preserving a specific version of Star Wars above and forever above any other version. Um, and from what I understand, this was the version that he himself signed off on for that limited DVD release in the early aughts.
I think I have those DVDs.
Yeah, where it was just like everyone was like the special edition DVDs were coming out, and it was like, okay, I'll put these other ones on YouTube, not remastered, not cleaned up, nothing. And a bunch of people were like, cool, yeah, that's all I want, and they went for it. And I think that was the version that went online here, and which is kind of funny because, like, again, like George himself signed off on that, released it, and people had the opportunity to purchase it. But like, it seems like almost backwards in a way that Disney slapped these people's hands and said, like, no, you can't show this version of Star Wars.
What's interesting in part of this is because I mean, when you think about it, if you want to watch A New Hope, you can go to Disney Plus, or you can hang around for either TNT, TBS, or I forget there's a third cable channel that'll give you, when they do their weekend Star Wars marathons, and that's where you can watch it. So the fact that it was on a streaming service, for free on the Roku, and that it was I think the big deal is that it was the unedited, unaltered 1977 version, or as close to unaltered as it is, because that's the other thing. Even the original doesn't exist anymore. The one that didn't have A New Hope on the title or Episode 4, that one you can't have, you will never find again. But the idea of the one that you have VHS aren't being available, it's kind of surprising because normally, no, Disney's very, if George was a bit retentive about controlling who got to distribute it, Disney's very clear about who gets to show it off and who don't. So
Yeah.
it makes me wonder, did they strike some sort of deal and somebody snuck in their own copy, or did somebody, because the mouse gets its money. The mouse gets its money. You're not getting anything out of them without somebody cutting a check.
I think there's a story there somewhere that I think would be very interesting. Um,
It's kind of like you treat the original versions of the movies at this point almost like Legends material, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
they own it, but they don't really like let
what
people have easy access to it, and um they don't sort of make it like visible.
what
So
I would if I was to put money down, there was somebody, a couple, I'm just going to call them engineers, just a couple people working. It was like, uploading content, and it's like, hey, let's put the original Star Wars up here, just in this big batch of stuff that we've just uploaded, and just see if anybody notices, type of a deal. I would not be a bit surprised if it's kind of a hacky thing like that. Anyway, but
Mm-hmm.
some people might have been lucky to be able to see the original version. Like I said, it's interesting. I have the interest to go watch it, but I also have a VCR in the other room, and I've got the VHS tape right behind me, and I have not taken it out of that box for, almost 20 years. So obviously the desire is not that strong to go watch the original version of Star Wars. So anyway, I just found that interesting.
The other thing I would say before we move on is just simply there is something to doing it that way, the way you described there enough, getting a VHS tape, popping into the VCR,
Sounds
hearing
exhausting,
the
doesn't it?
sound. Well, no, but hearing the sound of the tape rolling and then getting the snap and crackling as it all kind of comes together and
Having to
getting that
rewind at
old,
the end of it, yeah.
you can't
be
rewind,
kind.
but also, but it's, you're getting that faded, film grainy look of it. Like, for as much good as, Disney and Lucasfilm have done of clearing up and making sure that the version that we get streamable is the best, highest quality definition we can get, there is something nostalgic about getting that old school, kind of faded, kind of worn out VHS copy kind of on your TV. It's like that's nostalgic. That's how you used to watch it. So I don't know. There's a certain element of charm to that aspect.
This is sounding like we're going to start arguing about LPs versus CDs versus MP3s.
So anyway, we'll get off the Aaron's lawn now.
No, we're not on my lawn yet. We'll get there on my lawn.
Okay, let's head
So,
towards Aaron's
like,
club.
just to like clarify for anybody that was listening out there, like, we're doing all news right this week. We're just news with some.
We gotta catch up.
Yeah.
See, for some goofy reason, everything happened the week the carnival happened because, of course, like they couldn't give us the look. They didn't understand we were out on the route with friends and family drinking, having a good time.
We had crap to do,
and,
son. Yeah.
Exactly. The world. The world does not stop when New Orleans does. Even though I fully believe that if they did, they'd live happier lives.
Yeah.
But now I'll get off my lawn. So let's start with the first kind of big thing. So there was an interview that Jon Favreau did with a French entertainment news firm called BFM TV Inside. So they're interviewing him, asking about future Star Wars projects. Mandalorian, Grogu, Ahsoka season 2. So while talking to them, he kind of let out the current state of play. So he says, this is quote, they ask him about season 4 of The Mandalorian. He says, season 4? I've written it already. We have to know where we are going to tell a fully formed story, so we have it mapped out. Dave and I, meaning Dave Filoni. And then slowly you just write each episode. So I was writing it during post-production because all of it has to feel like a continuation and one full story. So in order to make sure that this continued or whatever, he not only is, while working on Mandalorian and Grogu, has already written season 4 of The Mandalorian.
So it's not.
Now, when we will see it,
it's not the It's not the movie. It's actually a season for Disney Plus. All right.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because we kind of made a big point of the fact that outside of Ahsoka season 2, we've yet to hear anything about any future Disney Plus Star Wars show. It just simply kind of disappeared, but everything's kind of hanging on Mandalorian and Grogu, which is coming out next May. But it seems like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau know, okay, we have a plan. So it makes you wonder if maybe they're putting Mandalorian and Grogu aim maybe for 2027, maybe after Ahsoka season 2, and then kind of give themselves a year or so to plan whatever next movie is going to go and lead towards that eventual, what is it, the Heir to the Empire finale or whatever.
Mm-hmm. By the way, not to eat into our Andor discussion here coming up a little bit, but since we're talking about Disney Plus series, can we talk a second for how they're going to be releasing Andor with 3 episodes per week, and that basically we're going to get 4 Star Wars movies
basically
in a month. I mean,
remember they did that for the premiere of Andor. We got the first 3 episodes. The first 3 episodes of season 1 all together, which at the time was necessary.
We're just getting a lot of stuff, and it's really cool. I kind of, it's kind of, well, like I said, I don't want to eat into the stuff, but I think that heard another podcast talking about is this kind of testing the waters for how Star Wars or other maybe Marvel stuff, how they will release their content instead of an entire season. Would the Acolyte have done better if you would have, instead of released it had the weird cuts between episodes, just release them as a chunk, so you could move right onto it? Would it have? I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Basically we're going to get 4 Star Wars movies, and that's awesome.
Two things. One, the reason why they're doing is because each 3 episode arc, which has different directors, different writers, is taking place whenever you go to the next week. The story will skip the year forward.
Yeah.
So basically, so every arc will go 1 year and then another year closer and then another year closer towards the finale, which will put us on the path to Rogue One. That's part of the thinking. The other thing is streaming is having a very existential moment right now. The cost of streaming, developing shows, making shows for streaming services has gone up post strikes, and the way that people, the cost on streaming services keeps going up. I don't know about y'all, but Netflix already told me, hey, we're going to go up in price. Disney Plus already told me they're going up in price. So a lot of people are cutting back on those services. So I think they're trying to figure out what the new model is going to be because at first they did well, we dump an entire season on one day, like Netflix did, and that worked for some aspects for some people. And then some other streaming services did would release once a week, every week, kind of like traditional TV did, and that worked for some people and not for some others. So I think they're trying to find what the happy ground is where people will stay uh, signed in for the streaming services beyond whatever show they like, and while at the same time knowing, okay, this is the value that people coming to get. So it's testing ground.
So if Mando season 4 is written, then we can safely assume that Grogu and Mando make it through the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. So
That's a good guess. That is a good guess.
That's the very good guess. Yes.
Right quick, next bit of story. This will be a quick one, just right quick. Star Wars Outlaws. I don't know if either of you guys played that. That was the video game came out last year. Picked up 3 BAFTA Game Awards nominations this week. Those were for performing a leading role for Umberly Gonzalez, who played the lead actress, best music, and for audio achievement. So, congrats to them. It's interesting because Lost came and went. There was kind of a bit of a controversy, a bit about it. Some people didn't like it, some people did. But now it just seems to have kind of settled into yeah, it's a mostly good game. So, I mean, it's getting support. So, hopefully that indicates we'll get more Star Wars video games because kind of sad that we don't get more.
well, that's where our Sabak game came from that we're playing now is from Outlaws. So um, it sounds like my friends who have played it seem to have enjoyed it. So the video game
Yeah.
and Sabak,
Mhm.
but anyway.
So, okay, next bit of news. Okay, this was not so much news, but it's an interesting idea. So, I don't know if you guys seen either Long Legs or The Monkey. There's horror movies. So they were asking the director of them is
Sorry,
Osgood Perkins.
that sounds like two people who hang outside of a bar on the Esplanade side of
They,
Decatur. Have you seen
they,
Long
they
Legs or
are
Monkey?
they are either Snake and Jake's or Miss May's regulars, and that is a very local joke. So, but yeah, director Oscar Perkins, who's just released The Monkey, which is a horror movie about a simple plain monkey and long legs, was doing a Reddit AMA. Ask Me Anything. And during it, a fan asked him, if there is a story you wish you had a budget or technology to make into a movie, what would it be? So he responded by saying this quote, the collected dreams and nightmares of Darth Vader as told as short stories. So basically the idea is he was hoping, his hope is to potentially pitch Disney Plus on an anthology series where you could go on, the interesting aspect, he would want to make it R rated. Now, we are getting more R-rated content on Disney Plus now. Daredevil Born Again just premiered this yesterday. No, 2 days ago. 2 days ago. And so, can you imagine like doing like an anthology series of like 5, 6 1-hour episodes where you just go through Anakin's journey as Vader, like that episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi where he just comes into town and just wrecks stuff up. I don't know. Might be interesting.
It would never happen because at the end of the day they don't want to traumatize little 10-year-olds who go see Star Wars for the first time with. Can you imagine, Dave, if your kids were to sit down and watch If they would have seen Anakin Skywalker actually kill all of the kids in the Jedi Temple, or there's they want to keep Darth Vader just bad guy enough that little kids still want to go hug him, at Disney World.
Start tearing this ship apart piece by piece until you find those tapes. Find the passengers of this vessel. I want them alive.
I don't know, man. Parents are built different nowadays. Like I've seen little kids in the theater for like the craziest movies that you would never in a million years think you should have a little kids, like Deadpool and stuff like that. It's just really like, you got your kid in here, really. Maybe not the best choice, but you're doing it anyway. So like, I could totally see them making this, with every intention of making it for adults, and then the kids see it anyway because parents are clueless. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about something like this. I think part of the reason that it worked in Rogue One as well as it did the hallway scene is that it was a short burst.
Yeah, and it wasn't gory. I mean, yeah, people were getting skewered, but I mean, it's not like blood and guts everywhere. And you're right.
Stuff in Obi-Wan might have like gone slightly further because he was torturing him, and that was not good.
Well, and
like,
random people like dragging the lady through the
random
street.
People too. Yeah, not like soldiers. Like in Rogue One, you're like, well, these are armed men who are adversaries on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Cut them down, no mercy. But but there were like randoms, and he was kind of cutting them up, and then like he was torturing Ben, and I was a little uncomfortable with some of that. Not gonna lie, and I thought, I didn't know if it went too far, but like I think
walked up to I walked up and you dipped your toe in the water. Yeah.
As part of the narrative too, it made sense, right? Because like they were drawing the story out, and there was a lot of ground to cover, and they needed to make sure that it was the classic narrative of the hero who rises up to the occasion, and in terms of Ben's story, which was like, I'm not up to it, and so they had to just like pound on him, and then eventually he got to a point where he was like, well, it's like the narrative, right? like oh, he's getting wailed on, and then at the end he comes through and he's like, yeah, he survived, all right. So as far as that narrative was, it like, okay, I went with it and I was fine with it, but like building a horror franchise around this feels, I don't know, like Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, what are you gonna do with this? Like make it into a joke? It's a little silly sounding.
Anakin Vader torture hour, for kids. The other thing I kind of think about is, we mentioned a few weeks back that Disneyland is doing the whole Seasons of the Force for Star Wars nights in April and May, and they're bringing characters back from the original saga like Luke and whatnot. If they ever wanted to put Darth Vader in the park interacting with kids, the idea that they would have just seen him, do some heinous, vile stuff, and then, come on, kids, let's go take a picture next to Darth Vader. People might, kids might start screaming and crying.
I want to
running away.
I want to see him in the new villains land that they're making in Disney World.
Right.
Just
there's
make
a kind of
cameo
thing
there.
Like you gotta scare them without traumatizing them, and you gotta do it in such a way that the parents feel comfortable with. So it's a wonderful idea. Don't get me wrong, but part of me wonders sometimes, like whether or not you can push it further. But they're more than just creative considerations to take into account before you greenlight something like that. Moving on right quick, what's not going to have any negative connotations is Revenge of the Sith. Speaking of Anakin's fall to the dark side, it is coming back to theaters to celebrate its 20th anniversary. So on April 25th, you're able to go back to theaters and enjoy all the glory once again. And
We're
Aaron is
old.
going. We were all then. We're even older now.
We're old. I mean, we're old, man. 20 years.
And the other funny thing is, because this was originally the end of the saga, now you get these 4K theaters with rumbling seats and whatnot. And I'm just like, that might make it for a fun experience to watch at the very least the Battle of Coruscant that kicks that movie off. So and I know that I didn't go see it in IMAX or anything like that, but maybe this might be the time to go do it.
I might just have to go just to be the one guy who groans when she says, "When Anakin, hold me like you held me on Tatooine," or whatever crap it was when she was combing her hair. I think
Naboo, yeah.
that's when I want to go. Ugh. I want to get
It's
that.
because I'm so in love with you.
I want to get that on video so I can post it to YouTube, in reaction shot. But no, at least I know if I was to go, at least I know when to get up and go to the bathroom.
You just want to live your inner Statler or Wardolph dreams.
Adler and Wardolph, yeah.
I mean, anytime that they're bringing a Star Wars movie back into the theater, I think is awesome. So does that it's if I go to see it, wonderful. If I miss it, I'm not going to be heartbroken because you guys know it's not my favorite of the prequels.
It's always tempting, like you said. I mean, like anytime it's any Star Wars movie, you're like, oh, maybe.
Especially now when we haven't had something in the theaters for a while. It's like, or at least, something that you can jump up and down about. But so.
Well, and I think particularly for like Dave and Kate with their kids, they've grown up with these movies on TV, streaming, being able to bring them into the theater and share that theater experience with them. Not another movie. It's a different experience altogether.
Dang it, Fredo, you just sold me on it completely. It's happening.
And I'm going to sit right behind you, and when we get there, I'm going to
go, no.
Yeah, that's when I'm gonna be Peter Griffin and Family Guy going done and just walk out.
No. Yeah. Hello there. Yes.
Well, Canadian. Trust me, that might end up turning into a Rocky Horror Picture Show if we're not careful.
Oh,
God,
wow,
I'm sorry.
Really
I'm just thinking about the lizard and unicycle race that happens on Utapau and just how awful that is.
No, that's great. What are you talking about? He's riding a unicycle, for Pete's sake. It's awesome.
Unicycle with legs.
Yes. Fredo gets it. Come on.
Anyway.
Like, that was wicked design. Like, what? Like, it doesn't even make sense. But you're like, it's like the walkers in Empire Strikes Back, right? They don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
The legs are vulnerable.
I'm not talking about the mode of transportation. I'm just talking about how ridiculous the chase was. It was just a ridiculous
the chase
scene.
was fun.
Oh, anyway.
You were just checked out at that point.
No.
I mean, too much Padme and Anakin, and you were checked out.
Yeah.
That stuff was fun. I liked it a lot. The only problem, okay, so you're talking about that sequence, the end where Obi-Wan ends up dangling from the ledge, right? And Grievous has him dead to rights, and he's like, "Oh, I'll just force grab this gun and shoot him in the heart," right? Okay, fine. He gets up. Well, he puts the gun down so that he can get up. Then he picks the gun back up. And it always bothered me because, like...
He does?
Yeah, he picks the gun back up so that he can throw it away for the gag so uncivilized. And then he throws the gun away. But I guess you could say that he picked the gun up because he wasn't sure Grievous was fully dead yet. And then he had to get a better angle to make sure. But like that always bothers me. Like that's one of those movie things where it's like you'll see it the next time you watch that sequence. He's hanging from the ledge. He has to put the gun down to lift himself.
Of all the groaners, and I don't mean to be saying it like
the gun up.
I mean that's
no reason.
Yeah.
And then just for the gag to throw it away. Yeah. Like everybody, like remember when Luke Skywalker threw his lightsaber over his shoulder? We've had like discussions about that on the show, where it's like I know Aaron, you hated that for the longest, and it was just
yeah.
The so uncivilized gag was kind of funny, but you can see him literally pick up the gun just to do the gag. Yeah. Okay, we talk about taking me out of it, right?
There you go.
That takes me out of it.
Get off Dave's lawn. All right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's like my biggest complaint about that movie, right? Like it's got issues, right? But like that's one of them.
I only have one kind of big issue with that movie, and it's the "Dying of a Broken Heart."
Yeah.
Which I know it's a great '80s song, but still. Anyway, let's get into the whole Kathleen Kennedy's leaving us saga then. Why don't we? So this would have been, let's see, I found the original article. This was on February 24th. So last Monday, Monday prior, a news movie blog had a scoop that after 13 years, Kathleen Kennedy was stepping down as the head of Lucasfilm. Apparently, she had informed Disney, Friends, and Associates she was exiting Lucasfilm by the end of the year. They said per 3 sources. Obviously, Disney and Kennedy's personal publicist declined to comment. This was from Puck News. Anyway, the idea was that she was going to be retiring at the end of the year. This quickly got picked up by the Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, all the big industry trades, who kind of ran with it. Again, nobody made a comment from Lucasfilm or from Kathleen Kennedy's office. They kind of went through her bio and her list of accolades. And then, let's see, about 3 days later, a week or so ago, in an exclusive to Deadline, Kathleen Kennedy came out and debunked that a little bit. So the quote kind of goes, well, she went to Oscar Wilde Awards. She talked to Deadline, and she goes, "The truth is, and I want to say just loud and clear, I am not retiring. I will never retire from movies. I will die making movies." So, pause right quick. Before she became the head of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy and her husband, Frank Marshall, were producers. They're the people producing the Back to the Future trilogy. They're producing a whole bunch of Steven Spielberg's movies, like Indiana Jones and whatnot. So this is part of the reason why she did get the tap on the shoulder from George Lucas 13 years ago to become the head of Lucasfilm. So what she says, continuing, is what's happening at Lucasfilm. I've been talking with both Bob Iger and Alan, with the 2 heads of Disney, basically, and about what eventual succession might look like. We have an amazing bunch of people here. I have every intention of making an announcement months or year down the road. We are lockstep in what's going to be. Here's the thing. I am producing the Mandalorian movie right now. I'm also producing Sean Levy's movie, which is following that. So this is the movie Sean Levy's directing with Ryan Gosling, rumored to star. So I'm continuing to stay at Lucasfilm and looking very thoughtfully as to who's going to step in. So they kind of ask her. So just to confirm at the end is that there sounded like there was some chaos. She goes, chaos? There's never been any chaos because we know exactly what the plan is. She says, I'm not going to be here forever. George asked me 13 years ago to step in, and now I'm looking at who's going to replace me. So She has an idea. There's some inclination as to who the future successor as the head of Lucasfilm is going to be. But as to the original rumors that she's going to be gone by the end of this season, which certain segments of the fan base celebrate with, like it was the end of Return of the Jedi, not happening.
Well, we've talked about it before. She's earned the right to exit in whichever way that she wants to exit. The other thing that I think about when I hear this, I'm reminded of my sister, she's an athletic trainer, and she was the head athletic trainer at Tulane up until about a year or two after Katrina, and she went back to Texas to be a high school trainer, and people would see that as a step backward, or a step down or something like that. And she was like, said, no, when you're at the collegiate level and when you're the head trainer, it's more of an administrative role. She wasn't dealing with athletes as much. She wasn't, getting to interact with the kids, and that's what she wants to do. I could see Kathleen Kennedy saying, okay, I mean, her job is, this is going to lead me to my third point here, but her job is administrative. It's not creative. It's, she's involved in some creative meetings and things like that, but for the most part, it's being the boss of the whole thing. And so that's why when people are quick to say Dave Filoni is going to be the head, I don't know. I don't think he is going to be the head of Lucasfilm, because he is a creative mind. He's not, and the head of Lucasfilm is got to be an administrator. You're not going to be in the classroom. You're going to be managing the people who are in the classroom. And I don't necessarily know if that's where Dave Filoni or even Jon Favreau want to be. I mean, I like the idea of what some people said, that maybe this is going to become a team, kind of like Disney with Eisner and who was the other guy that was with him? But I can't remember the name. But anyway, they were co-CEOs basically. Eisner was the creative, and the other guy was kind of the money man, and kind of the more analytical side of things. And I could see that happening at Lucasfilm, where, you have a creative head and you have somebody, like I said, who does more of the nuts and bolts. I don't know. Well, like I said, I throw it to Dave for your 2 cents.
So the interesting thing about the Kathleen Kennedy stuff to me is and again, I think this could be its own episode where we could just sit here and evaluate her. Like, if we wanted to just go down that road of, oh, did she do a good job or did she not do a good job? And again,
let's look at her catalog.
I understand that she's, continuing, but look at the catalog, evaluate the entire thing, right? And that would be, that would be a series of episodes if we were to get it drill down into everything. We talk about comics and books and everything, but even if we just limited it to television and movies, and just said, and maybe some of the bigger books, and we just said pass or fail, and just do it case by case by case by case, I have a sneaky suspicion that she would get more passes than fails from this group. And I think that's the thing that sort of gets lost when people get really angry about her tenure and angry about specific projects. And they talk about, the Disneyfication of Star Wars and all the problems inherent in that. And I think that they just sort of miss the forest for the trees, right? It's that we've gotten a lot of really good Star Wars stories over the last 10 years. And the volume of it is undeniable, right? There's just a lot of it. There's been a lot more of it than we had in any previous decade.
Mm-hmm.
we can bemoan the lack of movies and the problems getting movies off the ground over the last few years. But like looking at the entire tenure, looking at the last decade, there was a lot there. To wit, we're sitting here talking about Star Wars every week, and we almost never run out of things to talk about. That wouldn't have been the case. That wouldn't have been the case 15 years ago. Trying to do a podcast 15 years ago, it would have been okay. We're gonna revisit the third scene in A New Hope, and we're gonna talk about the dialogue in a really microscopic manner, and that's all that we have because we have nothing else to talk about.
You brought up a good point real quick. You mentioned the movie. We can bemoan the fact that there haven't been movies, and there was the pandemic. We're still dealing with the ramifications of that because I think probably Lucasfilm is like a lot of studios are like, all right, kind of hedging their bets on whether you put something in the theater because the last several movies I've gone to have been far from populated in the audience. There are a lot of empty seats. I just don't think people go to movies like they once did. And so, do you put do you put a lot of money into those eggs? I don't know. Sorry, I stepped on you. Finish your thought, or Fredo. Yep.
No, I was going to say, and that part, between the pandemic, the shift towards streaming, the dynamics of the movie-going audience have changed. And, in a weird dynamic way, I think Avengers Endgame was kind of a press point because that feels like that was the last great movie that everybody rallied around and had to go run to the theaters to go see, which was literally 6 to 8 months before the world shut down. And then everything post-pandemic has just been trying to figure out how we get back to that space. So, right quick, two things before I go any further. I wanted to mention just right quick because Deadline's article makes a good point. You can make the case that Kathleen Kennedy is the most successful female producer executive in Hollywood history. Her films, she has produced more than 70 films, which have collected more than 120 Oscar nominations. Her resume includes Jurassic Park, The Sixth Sense, E.T., Munich, The Color Purple, Poltergeist, Schindler's List, the Indiana Jones trilogy, and the Back to the Future trilogy, on top of Star Wars. The other thing I was going to say, and you made a good point about this, Aaron, is that people misconstrue the role of producer or executive with a creative. The chief creative officer right now at Lucasfilm is Dave Filoni.
Yep.
He's the head of Lucasfilm in terms of ideas and concepts and what stories are going to tell. That's never been Kathleen Kennedy's point. A producer is the person who goes out there and gets you the money and gets you the resources so you can make your movie.
And before they gave Dave Filoni that title, it was, whoever was making the movie was the chief creative person. It was J.J. Abrams. It was, Rian Johnson. Then it was J.J. Abrams again. But yeah, her role, yes, she was making sure that it was moving in the right direction. But otherwise, you give the director and the writer their creative license.
They're the ones who make sure that, okay, here's an idea for a movie. First of all, we may need to make sure that people generating the idea have the money to be able to eat and pay their bills while this idea is coming together. Do the pre-production, do the whole dynamic of getting everything. Okay, this is kind of our vision is. Make sure that there's a studio willing to foot the bill. Making sure that there's other people coming along. Again, making a movie is not just George Lucas or Steven Spielberg had a brilliant idea, and 9 months later you get into your movie screen. It's an arduous process.
And however, and like I said, she has earned the right to exit in whatever way she wants to, and I'm a Kathy Kennedy fan. However, there have been I'll buy that there was no chaos, but it's much like the athletic director of a university gets a little bit scrutinized when coaches aren't hanging around, or you're constantly firing and hiring coaches, or the win-loss record is not that. So eventually, you can blame players and then coaches. Then eventually, the athletic director gets scrutinized a little bit. So I still think that there is probably a little bit of a story with all of the writer churn and all the announcements that didn't pan out and everything. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I think there's a story there, but I don't think it has any. That's just a small blemish on an otherwise, like you said, Dave. We've last 10 years we've gotten more Star Wars than we've gotten in the 30 years prior to that.
I think there's there's no arguing that she's had an incredible career. I think where the argument comes in is has her tenure been good for Star Wars? Evaluating it specifically on Star Wars and Lucasfilm. And I look at it and I think it's more good than bad. I mean, it really is. Like I said, this might be a fun exercise for us to do at some point. Is just sit down and say pass fail on every project. And again, it's impossible to evaluate the things that don't get made. I understand that that's where some of the criticism comes in. When a project just flips off into nothingness and then we're like, oh great, another movie that didn't get made. And I think I also don't want to undersell that some of this is the current manosphere misogyny. I hate women. I hate woke. I hate whatever. And some of that fuels this too, right? And that's why we're having the conversation in the first place. But I think all that aside, if we want to just sit down and be honest and say well, okay, do I like these projects that we've received? And by and large, for me, the answer is yes. And if we sat down and we did it, I know that it would be yes for me. I'd be like, yes, yes, yes. I like this. I like this. I like this other thing. It's fun. I still like Star Wars. Sorry, people.
I think ultimately, when we discuss all the projects that haven't come to the ground, we also have to acknowledge that the dynamics in Hollywood are shifting. There's been this push-pull between the streaming and the movie services. They had two different creative strikes, which slowed everything down. A lot of making a movie is all about timing. Not just the moment that you say, okay, we're making this movie. It's, do you have your director? Do you have a script that's ready to go? Have you done your casting? Can you get this done? Do you have the set availability? A lot of times some of the greatest movies, they get struck by disaster. I always think back to how Titanic was supposed to come out 4th of July weekend in 1997, but a hurricane hit Mexico where their sets were and destroyed them. So they had to push everything back, had to go beg the studio for more money, and everybody was thinking this is going to be a disaster when it came out November of that year, and it only goes on to become the biggest movie in the world. So a lot of times you just don't know what's going to be a catalyst for success or what's going to be something that holds you back. I think back to something like Rogue Squadron. I know that they've been trying to get that movie off the ground with Patty Jenkins, and she's been coming and going back on the idea. Part of it is, while she wants to do it, I'm sure she also has other projects down her plate that she can pick and go do, because that's the nature of being a creative in Hollywood. It's I gotta maybe making something. So what's ready to go? This is what I'm doing, and I'll put this to the back while this gets sorted out. And sometimes you get lucky in the timing, and a lot of times you just don't. So
I also
that's the nature of the beast.
I also look at it through the I think about my dad. He was an agency manager at State Farm, and so he was just managing all the State Farm agents in a certain region, and he took a step down, took a pay cut, stuff like this, and it was so because we were getting of the age of there are going to be a lot of concerts, a lot of ball games, stuff like that, and he's like, don't want to travel as much, and I want to be able to see my kids do their thing. You know, Kathleen Kennedy is getting to an age where it's like, I'm not ready to retire, but I don't want to do everything. I want to be able to pick and choose my projects, you know, and stay like, that's just, I can understand that. You want to be able to live your life and not just, you know, manage everything. So, yeah, I mean, it all makes sense to me. Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that, it's the kind of thing where you have the right to pick when you're going to move. I mean, she said she's never going to stop making movies. Whether, she leaves Lucasfilm and she and Frank Marshall decide to keep producing movies with Steven Spielberg or go make independent films, who knows? She has first of all, she has the right to do that. She's earned the right to do that as successful as she has been. But also, she also gets the right to say when I want to walk away from it. I'm sure she's already stated they are working on a plan. She's having the discussions with the heads of Disney for an eventual exit strategy where somebody else comes into the role that she holds and they're able to transition without too much of a fuss. But that's going to be a process. Lucasfilm is not just we make Star Wars stuff no more. And Disney paid a lot of money and they want to make sure they're getting exactly what they paid for. So it's not just the mean old lady who made the stuff that put women and people of color in my Star Wars is going away. Yay!
Well, let's shift to
women and people of color.
The new thing that's
Star
coming
Wars.
out. Yeah, we got our Andor season 2 trailer with a Steve Earle song, the controversial Steve Earle song, which is a really good song. Man, I said it before. I said it this summer when I went on vacation and I had a long plane ride, and I rewatched Andor season 1, and I've loved and I've enjoyed all of the Disney Plus Star Wars stuff, but Andor's playing checkers and the rest are playing chess and the rest are playing checkers. It just looks so good. I mean, aesthetically, season 1 was written so well, and it looks like season 2 is going to be just as cool. I thought as a trailer, it did exactly what you wanted it to do. It didn't give away really a plot. It didn't give away too much. I like the use of the Steve Earle song.
Again.
And here's my get off my lawn moment. Is that people other people I've heard complain about it, and it's like, I want to hear John Williams in my trailers. It's like, hey, okay, that's kind of a prequel trilogy thing, because I watched the Empire Strikes Back teaser trailer, and there wasn't music to it. The original Star Wars didn't have music to it. Return of the Jedi, maybe, I think maybe had a little bit of John Williams stuff to it. But otherwise, it's like this thing that Star Wars has always had. No, Star Wars has not always had. And I can understand why. It's much like we talked about with the Major Tom thing in Skeleton Crew, is that this is how, you get people to pay attention to your trailer, is by not alienating them with music that they don't, understand or recognize. So anyway, I have no problem with it. And I just have a problem with people saying Star Wars has always had. And it's like, no, Star Wars has not always had. Anyway, I don't know. Dave, what'd you think of overall the trailer, just as a trailer?
Great. Loved it. I think there's sort of like two things that you can evaluate. Like the Steve Earle song is a wonderful song. And I know that some people have like gotten in their own heads about that. And I think like there's two different ways to sort of evaluate it, which is on the one hand, thematically it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use that word lightly. Absolutely on point. Yeah, the revolution starts now. I even pulled up these lyrics so that people could like hear the lyrics in relation to what we already know about Andor as a series, right? I was walking down the street in the town where I was born. I was moving to a beat that I'd never felt before. So I opened up my eyes and I took a look around. I saw it written across the sky. The revolution starts now. And there's more to it, obviously. But like I looked up to the sky and like just you think about the visuals.
Well, it talks about also
season.
taking care of the revolutions in your neighborhood. It's in your, like you said, in your hometown. Yeah, I mean, you're right.
Tearing the walls down and where you work and where you play, where you lay your money down. The revolution is here. It starts here. And the messaging is just, again, chef's kiss. It's perfect.
It's
and not
perfect for the time, of what we're going through now.
It's also very, like, it's an up-tempo song. It sort of, like, gets you going, too. So, like, the question isn't, like, thematically, is it, like, perfect? It is. Tonally is more like the question, like, is it a bit of a misdirection, right? Like, you're trying to get people in the door, and then once they watch this show, it might be a little dark. It might be a little depressing. It may not be quite so uplifting or upbeat as what you get from this. But, like, again, they're trying to get people in the door. And like I said, thematically, they're telling you everything that A, you saw in season 1, and B, what you're being promised for season 2. And I thought it was just brilliant. I loved it. And I've watched this trailer like, a couple of dozen times probably now. It's so good.
Yeah, first thing before I start sharing my thoughts, you're 100% right, Aaron. Trailers change. Trailers shift. They go with the cultural norms. I mean, it used to be the standard that trailers would have a voiceover, the voiceover guy, the in a world kind of thing that eventually got made a meme and fun of on YouTube. So that used to be the case. It used to be the case that trailers would have a narration telling you what happened versus now where it's more we let the story tell itself through pictures and sounds and oftentimes music. So I thought it was appropriate. The use of that song specifically was appropriate for the story Andor's telling. Andor, by its very nature, has never been about the grand mysteries or the grand saga of Star Wars. This is very much a gritty, down to earth, down to where people are suffering and struggling and fighting against the Empire. The heroism of Andor's, the heroism of normal everyday people. It is not of people with destinies or grand bloodlines or none of the hero's journey that somebody like Luke Skywalker or Rey Skywalker went through. There's nothing to do with that. So I think in that sense, it's appropriate that it goes by that. I love the trailer because it's giving you just enough of the journey you're going to go to. I mean, we got to see Krennic, we got to see K2, we got to see Mon Mothma in the middle of a party dancing, which makes me wonder if that's where they're going to extract her. Maybe that's where the mission happens for where Cassian and his cell extract Mon Mothma to
I don't necessarily think so because remember Star Wars Rebels, she gives this big speech because of the was it Gorman massacre. But if she gives a speech in the Senate, running down Palpatine, she's not going to go to a party So I disagree with you on that one. Anyway.
No, you're thinking about that, but remember, if you're trying to avoid getting snatched up by the Empire's agents, the best way to do that is to stay in the most public spaces available. The moment you go turn a corner and you're by yourself, now you're a target. So could very well be that case. Again, that was my initial thought when I saw that. Uh, Overall, even like the fact that they got Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna to discuss some aspects of the journey that the character's going to go through. They did that both. They also yesterday released a
Yeah, that was
kind
in
of
the
behind
special
the
look.
scenes
Yeah.
featurette. Yeah, a special look. So again, even giving you even more little snippets of it, of what the story's going to be. Again, it sounds and looks and feels very much like Andor season one, like a continuation, and that they're really looking to nail this journey and showing us what it's like for um, all the characters that we've come to know in season one. Again, they they set a lot of stuff up in season one, and hopefully we get it paid off in season two.
No, and it was interesting that you almost, I can't take credit for this. I think Star Wars Underworld mentioned this, is that this is how it was such a good trailer, is that the Death Star just gets just a little blip, instead of, you would think in the past that would have been the ending shot, it would have been, the Death Star, but it's, this trailer, it's like it's about people. Um, yeah, so I don't know. We could dive into and start speculating over what we saw, but I think it really got me pumped for this series, and I think that's the most important thing. Um,
yeah, I agree. There are certain things there going on there where we can make a lot of educated guesses about where the story's going to go and what's going to happen. But again, I think the most important thing is, like, how do you feel? And I feel excited.
Mm-hmm.
I'm into it, man. I'm ready.
I'm still saying, even though in the special look we did see B2 emo, but I still think that they're going to transfer his consciousness into K2SO. That's still my $10 bet. Because I don't think, how can they can't put us through Cassian losing both of his droid best friends. It's just one, please. But anyway, yeah, and people are trying to speculate as to what. That's the other thing that's kind of funny. What planet is the grass planet? And it's like, who cares? That's the thing that it's like, it might be Dantooine, because here's some concept art that showed what they thought Dantooine looked like, and maybe it's Lothal. It's like, maybe it's Iowa. It's like, who cares? It's like, why does it have to be one of these things? You know what I mean? If it is, great. If it's Dantooine, wonderful. If it's whatever, I don't give it. It's just, I don't know, why would that matter so much to people, but it does. But yeah,
I think we're gonna get the Gorman massacre.
Mm-hmm. That's what everybody's speculating. Yeah.
Right.
Now, the one thing I'm wondering because of that, because I think they said they're going to be, if we see that, and then that's what sets Mon Mothma off to give her speech in the Senate, and that episode of Rebels where they pick her up. Are we going to see live action Hera again? Maybe Zeb. I think there's some casting that can be. Are we going to see some of that? Or is it just going to be, all right, you're going to go meet the Ghost crew? Maybe we just see the Ghost and that's it. I don't know, but I would like to see a little bit of Rebels connection. I don't need them to become part of the cast, but a little cameo of, getting her on this ship, and that might be the last that we. I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
It could be it could be a fun mention. It may not even they may not have to show it, but it could be like.
But I mean, that's the thing. We gotta
have a date with a captain. I have to go meet.
But if we're going up to the day before Rogue One,
Right.
or the day before Rogue One, because the last 3 episodes are the 3 days before Rogue One. So Mon Mothma is going to have to get to Yavin,
Yavin.
which the way she gets there is through on the Ghost, on the Ghost with Hera and her crew. So that's going to be interesting how they play that, because we've seen some Yavin shots and stuff like that. I don't know. It's good. Maybe we see them. Maybe we don't. Maybe we just see the ship land and she gets off. But I think it'd be kind of cool to at least see. And I still come back to, why would you have Zeb in one scene of one episode of The Mandalorian? You know what I mean? Unless it was
Dave Filoni was there.
Unless it was RNA for something they wanted to do later. So anyway, tinfoil hat
It's
off.
going to be interesting. Yeah. No, just right quick, because it's the kind of thing that may feel out of place in this story.
Good.
The way that they've told Andor, it's interesting. It's been primarily a human story. You do have, I'm trying to think, you didn't have aliens until the episode when they escaped from the prison and they swam to the shore. So by and large, this has been primarily a human cast with, a few droids in the background. That's really been it. So if you all of a sudden drop the cast of Rebels into it, even if it's just, say, Seb and whoever, it'd be kind of a surprise. The other thing is, if I remember correctly, that episode of Rebels, they they're told, go here and find this person, and they find Mon Mothma. So it could be that, it's going to be Cassian's role to get Mon Mothma on a ship.
Yeah,
He sees her take
okay.
off.
So this is what I'm going to do.
And you don't see anything.
I'm going to go watch that episode of Rebels now tonight, because I want to, because I know the Ghost crew gets to Yavin, but maybe it's not with Mon Mothma. So I think I need to go watch that episode, how it ends, who they hand her off to. So yeah, they may be off the hook anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and it would be indicative of the nature of the rebellion at this point. It's individual cells; they're not one cohesive unit. Yeah. So, but again, they could very well turn up in the final episode. We know the Ghost is in the Battle of Scarif.
Yeah, I was going to say, in Rogue One, we even get the, call General Syndulla, will you please report to the cafeteria, or whatever the hell it is. Let's do some, okay, so, yes or no, even for a smidgen of a second, do we see Darth Vader in Andor Season 2?
No.
I'm going to say no. Man, I want to say no, but then I just know that they can't resist, even if it's just, like I said, for 1 second. But Dave, I think you're like the same way. I'm
a no. Yeah, like that's a good point. Like, temptation is real. I'd say Palpatine. I'd say Sheev is more likely.
That was going to be another one. Do we see the Emperor at all?
Particularly since he's getting called out by Mon Mothma. So it could be something where you have at least a scene or two at his office where he's like, okay, time to take her out, kind of a thing.
Grand Moff Tarkin? I'm going to say no on that one, because it's far too expensive to do what they did, and I think they're going to give Krennic his time. So.
Yeah, no, and in reality, it's interesting that Tarkin does not really become important until he basically rips out the Death Star from under Krennic's control. So I could still see Krennic being the primary threat and whatnot. here,
Also,
as opposed to it being.
It also would it would kind of cheapen that reveal of Tarkin in Rogue One. So yeah.
And put the odds at look. If I'm gonna put percentages on this, okay? Darth Vader 5%, Sheev more like 25-30, and Tarkin more like 40.
Oh, you think it's more likely that Tarkin is in there than a shot of
Slightly
Vader?
more likely.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Who's some
He's
others?
a bureaucrat.
Yeah. Is there,
And Andor's.
are there any others that could be? What about a? I was gonna say probably not a Bail Organa.
Senator Organa, meaning Leia? Or do you think that would cheapen that reveal at the end of Rogue One? I could see Bail. I could see Bail, for example. I could see him being there.
Yeah, Bail might be likely there.
So it could be interesting. And I'm actually, all the things that we've just said, my hope is that none of them are there. Because that was the beauty of Andor season 1, is that we did not need all of the, big names from the olden days to make us interested in this. So
I have one.
All right, go for it.
Since they've teased that this is going to lead up to basically 5 minutes before Rogue One, are we going to get the guy that Andor shoots in the back?
You're going to find out how he hurt his hand?
Yeah.
Or hurt his arm?
Are we going to get the sacrificial lamb guy?
See, because you need to establish that story. If for nothing else, do that when Cassian shoots him in the back. It now becomes a bigger tragedy aspect of Cassian's role. Because again, the whole point of this is showing us how Cassian became the guy we made in Rogue One. The guy who's telling Jen, hey,
well,
I've been in this fight for years.
And that's the thing, is that everybody heads up. And this might be my last comment because we're running long here, but we're going to see, this is my other guess, is we're going to see Cassian do some nasty crap. Because there's a moment, in Rogue One when he chooses not to shoot Galen Erso.
Galen.
That was a major choice. And, it's in the trailer too, said everything I did for the rebellion. And, you talk about, I've been in this fight. He's an assassin, and he's doing some nasty crap in these 12 episodes. And that moment, on Edu, where he decides not to shoot, is going to be amplified. It's going to make it an even bigger moment. So be heads up that he's going to be one of those. I mean, we're still going to like Cassian, but he's going to have to do some uncomfortable crap.
It would make sense. I mean, again, the whole point of that journey that Cassian goes through in Rogue One is the turning of him from being somebody who seems war-weary and beaten down by all the stuff he's had to do for the rebellion into somebody who believes in Jin's call for hope in the mission to go to Scarab. So we eventually need to get to that character. So this might be a bit of a journey into darkness for Cassian in season 2.
There's reasonable speculation to be had about his role in the Gorman massacre if we get it. And that he might not be entirely innocent when in terms of that specific event.
That he kind of incited it a little bit.
Potentially incited it in some way. Because he appears to be not himself, undercover, all, with his hair swooped and all pretty boy looking. He's obviously rubbing elbows with people in that sense. It's like, is he going to be? Is he undercover in that way? Is he trying to start a little trouble? And I think so. And would it be that specific thing? We don't know, but it's a good bet. It actually is.
Well, hey, let's leave it at that. I don't want to speculate any further. I'm looking forward to this. We got April coming up, right? So this is awesome. So let us know what you think of the trailer and of all the news we talked about. Hope you had a wonderful carnival, and now it's on to St. Patrick's Day and everything else that we got going around here. So, just take a little bit of a nap. It's time to go again because festival season's coming up too. So, but until then, we'll say who dat?
Who dat?
Who dat?
Everybody have a great week.
McClunky.